It's the final countdown of Final Girls. Get ready to blast off into the world of entertainment with Pop Culture Planet. Hello and welcome to the Halloween episode of Pop Culture Planet. I am your host, Kristen Maldonado, and each week we are joined by incredible experts for analytical pop culture discussions. In this episode, I am thrilled to be joined by returning guest Steph Cozza of Aggressive Comix, as well as Amy Cassandra Martinez. How are you guys doing?
Great. Happy to be here again.
Yes, me too. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you guys for joining me. Now, I love to start off our podcast talking about your entertainment origins. For those who might not know who you are, let us know a little bit about yourself, what you're working on, how you kind of got started, got into entertainment, and also, can you tell us who you are for Halloween? So for those who are listening to the audio podcast, if we're deciding to watch instead, you'll see we're dressed up in Halloween costumes. I'm a superhero, and I will let you guys share your backgrounds and who you're dressed up as. Steph, you want to start?
Yeah. So, sorry, did you say me?
Yes.
My sound cut off. So I was like, wait, did you say me? Hello, I'm Steph. So I have a YouTube channel called Aggressive Comix where I review movies, and that's pretty much where I fit in the entertainment world. I review movies. I talk about movies. All I do is watch movies. That's it. That's all I do. But yeah. So I got started in the entertainment industry. I would say like college is kind of when I started. I went to film school and I got really into film production. I was a PA on a few productions. I was a casting intern for a while. Then I worked at BuzzFeed in their video department. Now I work at NBC in their social media marketing department. So I've kind of hopped around in the industry, but right now my most exciting thing is just reviewing movies on YouTube, and it's really fun, and I love to do it. And my Halloween costume is Sabrina Spellman from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, because I just cut my hair and I dyed this little chunk gray, and I was like, well, I feel like this is a great opportunity. So, yeah.
That is a perfect costume for you. Now, I got to ask because I feel like me and you are in a unique space where like we have corporate jobs working in like social media, but we also create content. Mm-hmm. How do you balance it?
Well, no sleep. I mean, you definitely have to love it because it's a lot of work. There are days where, movie reviews are hard because they're so timely and you can't procrastinate. Like if a movie comes out, you got to get that out. Otherwise no one will care. So, there are days where I'll wake up at like 5 a.m. and I'll shoot my movie review before I go to work so that it's up that day. And, hustling to get screeners, which, as you know, is a challenge, but we try. So it's definitely a struggle, but I don't know. You just have to love it and make it your everyday. It's like another job, really. But
absolutely.
I don't know how I make it work.
Right. I guess just figured out that time balance when you should be sleeping, doing something else.
Yeah. You have to sacrifice a lot of things, like I could go hang out with friends or I could watch this movie and review it. And so it's really just a matter of discipline, I guess.
Totally. Now, what about you, Amy? What about you and your background? And also, what are you dressed up as?
So my background's a little bit similar to Steph's. I did get started in college. I have done PA work. I interned at a news outlet when I was still in college. And then after I graduated, I was working there. And I'm originally from Texas. So then I moved out here after I got married, out here meeting LA. And since being here, I've been a PA doing all kinds of things because PA work is crazy, and commercial shoots and things like that, even a weird stand-in for someone. And then I got very lucky to be able to start hosting in front of the camera, which is what I really wanted to do with AfterBuzz TV Networks that was started by Maria Menounos and her now husband, Kevin Undergaro. And after that, I just started doing a bunch of really cool carpets and just, I think what people see when they think of carpets is just like the glitz and the glamour. But before that, you're just kind of squished in there, hoping to get a question in. So definitely a lot of like really cool red carpet moments that are insane, but still really exciting. And I have started my own horror show every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And I think, gosh, it's been 5 months now. I started it in quarantine. So right now is the time to start things. If you guys are wondering when you should start that thing that you've been wanting to do, right now. And I also started my Twitch channel this month, actually. I started streaming horror games. So yeah, just trying to balance hosting, producing, editing, shooting, and having my own things as well. And I am dressed as Sydney Prescott. Here's some blood. And then here's a fake knife, of course. And then, hello, what's your favorite scary movie? Oh, Ghostface, you're right here. Hello. It's just my phone case. So, yes.
That is awesome. Very cool. Now, I got to ask, what has been your favorite red carpet experience?
It was definitely... because I was also able to work at the SAG Awards for several years, and that's really exciting. But red carpet, asking questions, Rampage. That movie with The Rock and Jeffrey Dean Morgan and the giant gorilla and like the other kind of animal that's like a snake or something or a lizard. Someone else was actually supposed to be doing that carpet, and they're like, I can't do it. Can you do it? And I was like, yeah, of course. It was a really, really big carpet, and usually in situations like that, it means you're not going to get The Rock. You're not going to get Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Like, it just doesn't happen. And I got them. And I was allowed one question, and The Rock said, wow, that's a really good question. And then my soul left my body. And also, Jeffrey Dean Morgan was like, well, that might have to be my question of the night. And then my soul left my body again. And I was like, am I still here? So definitely that day was a big day.
That's awesome. That is iconic. I mean, if The Rock even breathed in my direction, I'd be like,
this is it. My life is over. It's complete.
Yeah, it's like he's like a one of America's sweethearts.
Yeah. He's so nice, so friendly. And the fact that he took his time to go everywhere, not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, that's how you know, like, someone's really just like about the work and stuff. Like, even if they're big, they'll give you like at least a question. You know,
yeah.
At least. But very cool. Very cool. So, you know, as we've mentioned and as Amy is dressed for, we are talking about Final Girls today. I'll bring up a quick comment from Adam Daly. Happy Halloween Eve. I feel like this is like what you got to talk about on when it's like the end of spooky season, you know, the final countdown, the final girls. So my question for you guys is, what is a final girl?
I mean, a final girl is the last girl standing, more or less. And usually she has to fight through hell to get there, and usually is the one to kill whatever the big bad is. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that, but that's the basic gist of it.
Yeah, she's also like the one that hopefully people are rooting for. You kind of just end up identifying yourself with someone. And she's just a freaking rock star. And like anything that is put in her like direction, any obstacles, she can overcome them. And she always comes out looking really rough at the end, like with blood and like, that's how you know.
That's how you know she was a final girl.
Yeah.
Now, what I think is so interesting about the final girl idea is that there are like some specific characteristics, but she's also like evolved a lot over time. You know, I think at the very beginning of like when final girls were first kind of originating, you know, yes, she was a sole survivor of like this group, but also she kind of was very like pure. She was always like a damsel in distress, you know, like some strong guy had to come save her at the end and help her. But I think that we've really seen a lot of changes in that idea over time. And so I'm curious, like, what do you guys think about like kind of the beginnings of the final girl and her origins and kind of how she's evolved?
Well, I feel it's interesting because when you think about the OG final girls, heck, even let's talk about Laurie Strode. That's not Lori. That's Michael. I touched him, but I was like, wait, that could be confusing. She's very timid and she's very focused on her studies. She's this naive babysitter. And then Michael comes and tries to kill her. And then what we see in the 2018 Halloween is this grown woman. This is still Lori with longish gray hair, and she is furious. She's seeking revenge, and she knows that what is that one line that she says that she's like, I've been waiting for Michael. Why? So I could kill him. Like something like that. And you see her going through so much already that she's not this like prim and proper, sweet, virginal woman. She's been through crap and she's ready to fight and kill Michael. And I think that's one of the biggest changes, is that they come back with a full force and they don't have to be this stereotypical image of like, hi, I'm a final girl. I'm so sweet and pure. And oh my God, I went through all this. I'm so scared. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess after a while, you're kind of like, this has been like how many years now of this continuing to happen to me? I'm kind of over it. You like kind of see them go through this like progression of like, yeah, maybe when they were young, they were, this is when they were, first coming into who they are. And now it's like, okay, I'm an adult now. And I think it is really cool that we get to see a lot of these final girls come back so many years later. These franchises continue on for like 20 years. Yeah. People just love them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely always a story of like self-acceptance where like they'll start off really timid and, like Laurie Strode was like a nerd in her friend group. Every final girl is always like the outcast of the group. Like Sally in Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like all her friends are kind of like slutty and like they just want to be sluts and have sex with each other. And she's just like the small one. And it's always this like small, timid, shy or whatever nerdy person. And then by the end, they're like, I'm actually kind of a badass. Like, I'm going to kill this asshole. Like, and it's just like a really empowering story, especially for young girls watching who might feel like they identify with that shy, timid girl and be like, I could be a badass too. Like, she did it. Why can't I do it?
Very true. And, it's so interesting because I think also like a lot of final girls are in slasher movies, and that's sort of a genre that I think a lot of times is like male oriented. So it's really interesting to see that like these final girls have become so like iconic in this sort of like male centered genre. But also I think then it allows, having these like strong women allows other women to come into that fold and like be like, oh, I relate to that. This is so cool. Like, this is not just a scary movie. This is a girl who's like kicking butt and taking names. And it's kind of interesting to see that like these projects became so popular when they were so focused in like that kind of like male centered gaze, if you will.
I think
oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I think what's interesting about the final girl and having like this girl hero in a horror movie is so interesting because the character is made to be relatable to the core audience. And the core audience of horror is generally men. So it's like, why are there so many girl heroes when they know, it's just interesting why that came to be. And then you also like, sorry, trying to articulate words. It's also interesting how oftentimes the final girl is the least sexualized character. Like, even though it's a male audience, they never sexualize her. It's always her friends. They sort of demonize it. Like, oh, if you're going to have sex in a horror movie, you're going to die. Like, you're not going to be the final girl. And they kind of make her a little more masculine. Like, you look at Ellen Ripley in Alien, and she's not girly at all. Like, the final girl is never feminine, which is interesting. And I'm not sure why. I guess because they're trying to cater to this male audience, but I don't know.
It's also weird because how many times have we heard, anyone, but men say, oh, I just can't relate to that. Well, you've been relating to final girls. So it's interesting to have that kind of viewpoint of being like, well, you're not like a young, single, virginal girl. You're a grown man watching a horror movie and you're putting yourself in the shoes of the victim, of the final girl. So that's something to think about. But it's also really cool because the more the genre progresses and the more final girls progress, the more I'd like to think women are starting to take charge and take power back and being like, okay, this is how it started, but let's change the dialogue a little bit more. I know someone in the chat, Z, mentioned Nancy from Freddy was never a damsel in distress. And I feel like it's interesting because there's a fine line between being scared, which is a normal human reaction if someone's trying to kill you, and then being that helpless person that's like, I need help and I don't know who's going to save me. And I feel like Nancy was already in that next level of like, I'm not your stereotypical final girl. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be doing something more about it. So I think that the more movies we get, the more women we're going to have in the background, writing the scripts, directing, doing, DPing the movie. And then maybe that kind of aesthetic and that kind of point of view will come across more so. I mean, if you look at horror movies directed by women, there are plenty. There are not as many as, have been directed by men. And there's a lot that are like not as obvious. So like obviously Halloween was not directed by a woman, the OG, So it's, I don't know, I feel like they're harder to find, but yeah, I mean Jennifer's Body, oh shoot, who was it?
Diablo Cody?
No, she wrote it.
Directed it.
Yes. I'll get there. She did Jennifer's Body and The Invitation. So I'm like, we've got great stories to tell. Maybe they're not all, final girl moments, but if we're heading in that general direction, it's cool to know that we will have that kind of point of view come across.
Karen,
oh my God.
Kusama.
There we go. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So I feel like there's hope, and yeah, hope in the slasher movies and hope in the final girl evolving and being who she really is.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bring up a comment from Nick, who says, I think that Happy Death Day was kind of a play on kind of like that, slutty girl trope or the non-virginal girl trope, and kind of made this character who was kind of an asshole a more of a three-dimensional character based off of like horror movie tropes, and I think that that's definitely a good example of a more modern final girl where they kind of do the opposite of some of the things that you would see in a typical slasher movie, but in a way that still pays tribute to it, and that's still fun and that you still root for her. And you do get like this character who starts out as sort of a stereotype and becomes this person that you do root for and you want her to make it through to the end.
Dana Polk from Cabin in the Woods. I mean, that's like one of the biggest ones where she starts, I love that movie so much. But you see all of those archetypes, right? All of those stereotypes for everyone and all those characters. And of course, the slutty girl dies first because she has sex with a guy. The jock dies too. Like all that. Spoilers if you haven't seen it. I just gave it all away. But by the end of it, you're like, oh, okay, so she's going to be it. She's going to be the final girl. And you think that she's going to choose, the world instead of her friend. But no, she doesn't. They're like, you know what? It's just you and me. Maybe it's time for the world to end. And then I remember watching it and being like, but why? But I like that. That is so different. And you don't normally see that. The final girl always has to do the right thing. And she always has to sacrifice so much. But I like this take on her.
Yeah, that's a great point. The final girl does have to sacrifice a lot. And I think also we get to, we see so many stereotypes of the people that are kind of like, that she loses around her, that it's kind of, I don't know, some of them are kind of problematic stereotypes. And I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on why these are the stereotypes that there are, like the fact that like the girl who has sex is killed, or, minorities are killed first, or things like that. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts. Like, why do you think that that's become the trope around like a slasher or like a, these types of horror projects?
I don't know why. It's definitely changing. Like those tropes have become tropes, and so no one wants to do them anymore. And thank God for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good that people are challenging them. Like, I mean, you look at Sydney from Scream, which, I mean, Scream is sort of a parody. So the whole point of it is to lay out these tropes of the slasher genre and then completely subvert them, which is why Scream is so great. But I mean, Sydney does have sex in the movie and she doesn't die. And I think that's cool that they did that. But I don't know who decided that that was the rule. I guess it seems like anyone that's having any bit of fun in a movie, it's like there's no fun allowed. Like you have fun, then you die. So maybe that's where it came from. But
and it's also like, you know, whoever did decide to start doing that, the people after were like, oh, these are the things that we have to hit. Like it's a checklist. Got it. And until like more recently, I mean, yeah, Scream. And I mean, I would even say maybe Midsummer. I mean, I feel like horror has been getting crazier and crazier in like the best way possible. But it isn't until people start questioning like, well, why the heck should the first like person to die be a person of color? Why? I don't like that. Let's not do that. Okay. And then we don't. I mean, Us. I love Us so much.
Yes.
I've got the scissors right there. There are no words to express how much I love that movie. And one of the main things I love is that you get to see Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke, and sure, Elizabeth Moss as well, play double, I mean, everyone really, double the characters and be completely opposite. But you also end up feeling like, wait, is Lupita's character the villain? So she switched. So Adelaide and Red, like, who's the final girl? She's the final girl, but did she kill the right person? Who are we rooting for? And like all those lines are pretty blurred. You're like, well, I guess I'm rooting for Red. I don't know. I'm confused. And that's what I think it's all about, making sure that we don't stay in these horror tropes with final girls, with just horror in general, because then it gets pretty stale. And then people are like, well, whatever, it's all the same. You know, someone's going to die. Blah, blah, blah. And it's always good to have those like go-to movies where, you know, you pop it in and you know everything that's going to happen. But it's great to push that envelope a little bit more and play around with it. It's horror. You know, I think you could get away with a lot of fun things.
Yeah. I mean, I think horror is a genre that is unique in that, like, I mean, I guess you can do a lot of things with different genres, but horror, like, you think of it and it's like, oh, this is supposed to be scary. And it's like, but no, this could be funny. This could be campy. This could be all of these different things in this one genre. And I love what you said about Us, because, like, I love when you dive into characters that are more complex. And then, like, as you really look at that film, the bad guys aren't necessarily really the bad guys, and the good guys aren't necessarily really the good guys. It's like people having this desire to achieve something or to have something that they don't have. And it's like, why does that make you bad? You know, because you want to like live out in the world, or because you don't want to be trapped in this like certain society. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting point.
It also made me want a bunny, but
oh, go ahead.
It also made me want a bunny because it's like there's so many. And then also, I don't think I ever want to go to a carnival situation like that. No. I went to Halloween Horror Nights and I went through the room and I was like, ah! And then I was just like, Amy, it's okay. It's fine. No one's actually really here. All these are actors. It's fine. And then I just look at them and be like, you're doing such a great job. But it's, I mean, that's the horror movie coming to life and you put yourself in that situation. And I think that's what's so cool about horror movies too, whether you're thinking of the final girl, the villain, everyone else, you put yourself in those situations. And these situations have such high stakes as opposed to, I mean, rom-coms also, I love rom-coms so much. They also have some kind of high stakes, right? Dramas have high stakes. But there's something about horror that I like to think, it's kind of like riding a roller coaster, except I don't like riding roller coasters. But I imagine it's kind of similar in that it's thrilling, but you end up learning a little bit more about yourself by the end of it. You know, like, what would I have done in that situation? So that's interesting.
Yeah, very true. We have a comment from Jorge Lopez, and I think that this is a really interesting comment. He says, horror films tend to depict the stereotypes and our prejudices of the times, whether it's aware of it, exposing it, or exploiting it. And I think that's a great explanation of why we've maybe dove into some of these tropes over the years is just like, that's how it was, that's if you wanted to like include a person of color, well, they're not going to be the lead, back in the day. Or if you want, you don't want to promote, young people having sex. So, hey, let's kill them, and just kind of going along with the times. And I think we're starting to see as people become more inclusive and more, aware of things that like those things are not okay. They've never been okay. But now we can put that into movies and then kind of do something different instead of always being stuck doing the same things. And I think we also have a good comment from, where is it? From Nick that says there's a new movie Freaky coming out later this year where it's a female slasher crossed with a body switching film. And I haven't really seen as many female slasher movies where like, the woman is the villain. A lot of times in these slasher films, the woman is the final girl. So I think that's it looks really funny. For some reason, it reminds me of New Guy. Or not New Guy, sorry.
She's
what is that?
I don't know why that one. Hot Chick.
Hot Chick, yes. No, wait.
Yeah.
Is
No?
it
It's the one with Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider. Is it called Hot Chick? Yes.
Hot Chick? That's such a like early 2000s, mid 2000s.
Yeah. The Hot Chick, yes, you're right. I started thinking of White Chicks, and I was like, wait a minute.
No, that's not, yeah.
Completely different movies. But yeah, it reminds me of Hot Chick, which I thought was a really funny movie. So I'm excited to see like their take on switching things up and having this guy, this like older adult man be the final girl and this young girl being the slasher villain. I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it's Vince Vaughn, right?
Mm-hmm.
He actually
so good.
If you guys have never, it's not a horror movie, but I've already talked about Florence Pugh before, so I'm going to talk about it one more time. Fighting with My Family. Vince Vaughn is really good in that role. I think that might be my favorite role of his. I feel like, right? Like his comedic timing and that's just like perfection. So I'm very interested in seeing him in this kind of role. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes with horror comedy kind of movies, sometimes people think like, oh, so it's gonna be crappy, but it doesn't. Like, I think with horror, if you are not scared, then it just becomes a really good movie. Then it's no longer horror. If you find yourself laughing, then it's a horror comedy. And if it's straight up a horror comedy, then hopefully you're having a good time. And hopefully the guts and the gore and the kills are pretty funny that you're like, oh. And that's a great reaction to have.
Like,
I love horror. Horror comedy is like the best genre. It's so good. Because even if it's like really stupid, it's still funny. So it's fine. I can get away with anything.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Okay, we got another comment that I'd love to bring up because I also want to talk about this actress and this film. But Adam Daly says, I feel like Samara Weaving from Ready or Not is this generation's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
I loved Ready or Not, and I am totally down for Samara Weaving being a new modern final girl. What'd you guys think of that movie?
I loved it so much. I thought she was such an amazing final girl. I love this, like the imagery of it, like this girl in a white gown. She's like the image of purity. She's like getting married, which is sort of an interesting twist on the final girl because normally she's alone or she's like the outcast of a group of friends. So that was a neat twist to see that like she's with this other person and you don't really know what to expect. And then just to see her white dress covered in blood and go from pure to impure, whatever you want to call it, and just like the moment where she just like snaps, it gives me life. I love her so much.
What I think is so fun about this one too is that I feel like this is one of the times where she's really saying what you as the viewer are thinking, like, what the heck is happening here? This was supposed to be my wedding, and now you're like, what in the world? And I love seeing that because it kind of makes you feel like you're in the in on the movie with them. Like, yeah, what is happening? What is wrong with these people? But then it still had those like kind of comedic elements so that like when they had that kind of reveal at the end, you're like, a little bit scared because you're like, is anything gonna happen? And then it's like kind of funny a little bit too, like her reaction to everything. So yeah, I think they did a really great job with Ready or Not. I feel like it was very underrated.
Agreed.
I love her in The Babysitter too. Oh my god.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Talking about, women being the slasher / the villain, she is at the helm of I guess her cult in a way. And she just, she's so good because she's so likable, but you're also like, but you're doing horrible things. And the kid that you're babysitting is terrified, and he loves you so much. And now you're scaring the crap out of him and us. And what's going to happen? And it's just so good. And I feel like she brings something that a lot of people just can't bring. And I have no idea what that is. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say anything about The Babysitter 2. Because I'm not sure if everyone's seen it. Yeah.
Okay.
But you should watch it too. Too. Yeah. But I'm not going to give spoilers just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she's definitely an incredible actress. Who do you guys think now are like the new final girls? I feel like there's a lot of iconic ones that we've like seen over the years, like Sydney Prescott, like Dana Polk, like Laurie Strode, Ellen Ripley. But who do you guys feel are like some of the new final girls that maybe people kind of haven't, maybe in the next few years those movies will become like the cult classics or something where like this is who we look at now as like our new ladies. I mean, I guess Mara Weaving is definitely one
for sure.
I mean, I love Lupita Nyong'o and I was gonna say Danny. That's her character. Florence Pugh. Lupita Nyong'o. Besides doing Us, I really loved her in Little Monsters.
That was
Little
fun.
Monsters was so sweet.
I haven't seen that yet, but I really want to.
It's so good, and she works as a teacher that you're like, yeah, she can. I mean, heck, if you're a teacher, you're already like, dang. You're strong. And so like to see her in that kind of role and then also switch it when zombies are involved, so good. And I still like, I can't get over how much she was able to do in Us. Just, I'd never seen anything like that. And to have such a big juxtaposition between the two characters is just perfect. And Florence Pugh can do anything, honestly. I love her so much. And I feel like her role as Danny in Midsommar, maybe this is a thing with me with Final Girls, is that they have to have way more layers, and you have to see all the trauma in their eyes, and you have to see all that nitty gritty stuff that you're like usually pushed aside. But Florence Pugh brings that all out, and it's there, and you see the pain, and especially because she goes through a lot in the movie. But crap, it's all there, and I would love to see her do more horror. Because my goodness, I love her so much.
Same.
What about you, Steph? Any thoughts on any final girls? Could be in TV also. I feel like we're kind of expanding our definition of final girls as we're talking about them too. Like, I think a lot of the older ones are from movies that like specifically are like a girl and like a guy with a mask. But even like the ones you mentioned, Amy, like Us, this is kind of like two sides of one person, sort of, in a way. Or, Midsommar, I mean, like some kind of crazy situation.
I'm trying to think of any more like modern final girls. And other than those two, I'm struggling to think of any recent ones.
Maybe
like kind of a shame.
Maybe like Journey Smollett in Lovecraft Country. I feel like could be a good final girl situation. I mean, she went through a lot in this season, and I mean, I think that I want to see her do more horror. She, she's definitely a strong character, and then a strong actress, and a lot of what she was doing. I don't know. Can I say spoilers? I feel like the show's been out for a little bit. Maybe I won't. You haven't seen it yet, Steph.
I haven't watched it.
But, there's like more going on for her than just like fighting through stuff. Like, so, to show a strong woman with all the other things that were going on in her life, fighting through all these monsters and whatnot. I think she definitely killed it. What else? If you guys have any thoughts on who are some modern final girls, leave a comment.
This person's not a final girl, but I just want her to get nominated. Dang it. Toni Collette.
I
was thinking of her.
I have, maybe I can show y'all. Here we go. It's hard to see, and that's the wrong side. Whoops. Nominate Toni Collette, you cowards. And of course, girl. I just
praise her.
So I just want her to have more stuff. I feel like we've gotten so many different things. I don't know if you've seen, I mean, it's not necessarily strictly horror because it's just crazy. But I'm thinking of ending things.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that for a long time. I don't even know how to describe that movie or explain it or talk about it in any way.
That movie is wild. That needs a whole episode.
That was but Toni Collette is in a lot of so many great things, and she can do everything. She can be funny, she can be a little scary, she could be she definitely goes to the next level.
Incredible.
I'm curious also on the other side of things, do you feel like there are final guys in horror? I know we've focused a lot on the women in horror, but I'm just, do you think that there are final guys?
I mean, the one that comes to mind for me is Ash from Evil Dead. He's if there was a final guy, it would be him, because he goes through hell, literally. And he's definitely my favorite, final guy, I would say, just because he's just this wisecracking, funny guy who, even though he's been through all of this shit, still has a sense of humor, which I admire in any kind of story. And I just love the Evil Dead movies. So there's that. But I mean, also we were talking about Cabin in the Woods. I would say Marty is sort of like a final guy, since he and Dana both make it to the end. But I think you more root for Dana most of the movie.
Yeah. I guess Chris from Get Out.
That's
Final guy. Wow. Yeah. He dealt with a lot too. Everybody's going through so much to make it out of these movies.
Yeah. I mean, who the heck is a final, maybe a final family in Us, maybe? Because then I'm like, well, Winston Duke, would he, he survived his guy,
True.
Yeah,
they are like a final family. Very interesting.
Families that kill their tethered stick together.
Ooh. You should put that on a sticker and sell it.
Wow.
That's great. Now, I'm also curious to hear from you guys. What do you think is the difference? I feel like there's a lot of phrases that are brought up around women in horror. There's final girls, there's the female survivor, there's the scream queen. What do you guys think is the difference between them? Can you be all of them? Can you only be one? Can you only be a couple of them? How does the Venn diagram kind of come together for these women?
I mean, I think to be the final girl, you have to be the one that struggles her way through, and you are just rooting for her the whole way from beginning to end. I know before when we were talking about this, you mentioned Psycho, and if what's her name, Lila, is the final girl because she is the one that survives in the end. But I don't know if I would really call her a final girl, because she's not really in the thick of it, and she doesn't really show up until halfway through the movie. And Marion, I can't remember her name, the main girl, she dies halfway through, so she's definitely not the final girl. So it's almost like the two of them combined makes one final girl. Marianne is the fear of the final girl and the one being hunted, basically, and then Lila is the brains who figures it out and overcomes him at the end. But then she also doesn't do it by herself. So I don't know. I don't know if that made any sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. What about you, Amy?
Well, I think like between Scream Queen and Final Girl, I feel like Scream Queen takes on a whole other level. Like it's royalty because Queen. So you have to. I mean, you've got Sydney Prescott, but more so, you've got Neve Campbell. You've got Laurie Strode, but really, you've got Jamie Lee Curtis as a Scream Queen. So the Scream Queen is who the actress is that is depicting these roles, and they have earned this title because they're so freaking amazing. Usually, I would say across multiple movies. So it's like you earn that recognition through blood, sweat, and tears, and lots of screaming. So you could be a final girl that works her way up. Maybe it's like graduation, then you become a Scream Queen. But a final girl is just, you know, exactly what Steph said, just within that movie. Because like, for example, Jamie from Halloween 4 and 5, Danielle Harris, I love her so much. She is so young in those movies, and she just brings it. If you're going to have someone come in after Laurie and be the girl that you're rooting for, she just has to own it from the beginning, which she does. And I feel like she was a great final girl, but maybe she just wasn't given enough of an option, or at least enough. I mean, she could have come back, but there was a whole lot of issues with paying her enough and whatever to be that Scream Queen. And maybe in my mind she is. But maybe in like the grand scheme of things, she isn't yet. But there's still hope. I freaking love Danielle Harris. So yeah. And then the Survivor is just, well, you're there, but you haven't earned it. It's like tears.
Yeah, that makes sense. Looking back, the final girls have stereotypically been like cut from like kind of like a similar cloth. Like a lot of them are, you know, white girls. And I think over time, we're starting to see, like, I think even as we were talking about some of our, like, modern picks of who we think are final girls and final guys, there's been a little bit more diversity there. And I know for the upcoming Scream 5, they've cast a lot of Latinos. Yay! Yay! A lot of Latinos in there, which I think is super exciting. And, like, maybe we'll get to see some Latino final girls and guys in this upcoming movie. But what do you guys, do you guys think that we're getting, like, you know, more women of color or more people of color in that kind of like final girls realm? I don't know if there's really necessarily like as many new franchises like Scream and Halloween coming out, but I think that they are definitely continuing those franchises, and maybe there are opportunities to like give more people of color like these roles and like these opportunities to become future Scream Queens.
Yeah. I mean, I think horror is always the genre that's breaking the mold before any other genre. Like, you know, the final girl trope. Horror was one of the first genres to have all of these strong female characters before any other movie. Or you look at like Night of the Living Dead, which came out in like the 60s, which had a lead. I think it was the first movie, at least the first horror movie to have a Black lead character. And it was the first movie to have a Black lead character just like not for the sake of him being Black. Like they just cast him because he was great. It wasn't in the script. It wasn't like we need this character to be African American. They just needed a man and they chose him. And that was just like, that had never been done before. So I think horror is the place to do that. It's the place to break the mold. And I think it is definitely changing, like with Scream and with Us and Get Out. And unfortunately, there aren't that many that I can think of though. So, you know, I hope it's definitely going in the right direction. But I mean, before we started this, I was trying to think of, you know, women of color who are final girls. And I could barely come up with 2, which is upsetting. But I think we're going in the right place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Honestly, I feel like this year alone, I've noticed so many more horror and like even just like spooky-ish movies coming out around October that are led by people of color, which I think is so cool. And I'm like, wow, this is the first year I'm like really noticing it. Like Netflix, I feel like has done a lot with Vampires versus the Bronx and My Babysitter's a Vampire. A Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting, and then you know we have that new film, His House, coming out. about like two refugees dealing with a haunted house scenario. I just feel like the more I'm like thinking about it this year in particular, I feel like I'm noticing so much more, which just makes me really hopeful for, more of that in the future.
I definitely, when I want to dress up for Halloween, I'm like, I wanna be a Latinx character, like a horror character. And I'm like, where are they? We've not even just Final Girl, just anyone. I'm like, we've got La Llorona. Okay. What else do we have? And I feel like I saw for the first time this year, I saw Issa Lopez's Tigers Are Not Afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so cool because it's not a slasher. It's very much like fantasy, but you've got a main girl, and she I guess is in a way a kind of final girl. And everyone else in the film is pretty young, and they defeat the big bad and all that. But it definitely is hopeful. I mean, I know that with each announcement with Scream 5, I was just like, every single time. I'm a huge fan of Vida, so to see Melissa Barrera like there, and then I believe it's Jenna Ortega as well, who was in the Babysitter 2, Killer Queen. But it's definitely, maybe that's just me being a big stubborn person, that I'm like, I want it and I want it now. It's not happening fast enough, and I would really like to hurry up the process of just having these final girls look like us. Like, just, it doesn't need to be this whole thing, and it's not that hard. That we all want to see ourselves on camera at the end of the day in one form or another. And I feel like the sooner that it happens, the better, because I know I'm not the only one that wants it. Like, hello, like, we're talking about it, and I just need it to happen faster. So everyone making horror movies, can we just like get on it?
Yeah. And then, I feel like I've talked about this before, but not even just horror movies. Like, this year is going to be the first time that I at least have seen a full Christmas, like musical extravaganza led by African-American people with Jingle Jangle when that comes out on Netflix. Like, I want a Latino Christmas movie. Like, how freaking cool would that be? I think that would be awesome. I feel like we just always get these very, limited representation, and I just want to see more. Like you said, I just want to see more everything.
We're just excited. This is what it is. We just want it. Just give it to us. We love movies.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't be the only one, but I watch horror movies sometimes to feel good. Because knowing that the final girl makes it at the end is inspiring to me, because it's like, look, things might be really crappy in your life right now, but if Sydney can survive Ghostface that many times, then you can do this. You can make it through your Monday. You can make it through this crazy week. And it's inspirational. And it just leaves me feeling like, heck yeah. It's like the same kind of feeling after you work out, except you're just sitting on your couch and watching a movie.
Exactly. It's like, I worked out with you. We all ran away from Ghostface together, right?
Yeah, but no, you're right. It's like, it's empowering to watch a girl rise up and defeat some huge evil thing that looks like it would be impossible to defeat. I don't know why, but it makes you feel like a badass. I mean, that's why I love Buffy so much. I can't believe I've made it this long without mentioning Buffy, my girl, my final girl, who I think is the most empowering female character that I've ever seen on screen. I love her so much. And I think she's a really interesting final girl because she is one of the only ones that I can think of who is actually very girly. She's a cheerleader. She's extremely feminine. She just wants to look cute and kiss boys. And she's like the stereotype of the girl in the horror movie who dies, except she doesn't. She gets up and fights back. And I think that's probably why I love her so much, because she does break that mold of who a final girl is. And you could argue that maybe she's not a final girl because she does have this support group of friends, but in the end, it is always her doing everything.
That's true.
So, but yeah, I think. Oh no, you're good. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that she really inspires everyone around her to rise up. And heck, even like thinking of, I don't know if you're talking about the movie or the show more.
Mostly the show, but they kind of have the same concept.
Yeah, because like massive spoilers, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the series, it's very much about like, yeah, I want all Slayers to come forward and just be who you are. And like life is hard, but like you're strong enough. And that's empowering to everyone else there, all the other Slayers. And it's like, even though we might not be Slayers, it's like, but like maybe we can be.
Yeah,
not
like
necessarily.
we could be.
We could. Mr.
Yeah.
Pointy.
I think that that's a great point, that like I think the more we get to see like different types of women in these spaces, it just like makes you feel kind of like good about yourself, because it's like, okay, well, you can be more of a tomboy, you can be really girly, you can be a woman of color, you can be, you know, someone who's, you know, who's had sex, someone who hasn't, you know, all of these different types of people, and still like survive and make it. This is not really a final girl at all, but it just made me think of the new movie Love and Monsters that came out with Dylan O'Brien. And he plays this guy who has to like go like across the Earth's surface where there's all these like monsters. And he's this character that's portrayed as someone who's very like kind of goofy and nerdy, and like he can't fight, and he like freezes up, and yet he still somehow manages to like get through. And it just makes you feel like, oh, if he could do it, like we can all do it. Like, you know, if this guy who like, you know, can learn this lesson and learn something from this situation, and then like, you know, rise up and survive this situation that we're all dealing with, maybe I can rise through whatever situation I'm dealing with. You know, I think that there's like these nice kind of morals of the story, if you will, that come out of these projects of just like keeping going on, you know?
Fuck yeah.
Now, for my last thing that I want to kind of bring up around Final Girls, I'm curious about the success of these slasher Final Girl franchises and why you think they continue on. You know, Halloween, Scream, you know, these movies came out so long ago, and yet we're still getting sequels, and people love them so much. Why do you think that they're still so successful even now?
I mean, there's always the nostalgia that plays into it, and that's the same across all genres, not just horror. Though I do think the horror sequels tend to do better. I don't know if it's because horror fans are just so devoted to the genre, like way more than any other genre. Like, I don't know why, we just love it so much, but it's definitely the nostalgia. And I think it's also because it's not like you're remaking some dumb action movie. Like, they're usually a little bit more compelling than that. And even though it is sort of the same thing over and over again, like a slasher movie is a slasher movie, we all know what to expect, but it always has some sort of underlying commentary, or I don't know. And it's also fun to see those final girls evolve even more over time and see how strong and powerful and how they can overcome pretty much anything. And as a viewer, that's inspiring to you because you're like, she's been through all this trauma and is still fighting.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Now, what do you guys think is, I guess, you know, we've talked a lot about the final girl, but why is this person kind of the target of these villains, so to speak? Like, do you guys feel like the villains are the draw in these projects, or the final girls are kind of a combination of both?
It depends. I think there's something interesting about, I mean, more overall, it's an underdog story, and everyone always loves an underdog story. But I think, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding weird. Like, people generally think of women as weaker than men, which it shouldn't be that way, but that is the way that it is. And so to see some small, timid girl being chased by a giant, terrifying man, that's entertaining for people. And to see her overcome it is even more entertaining. So, and more inspiring. So maybe that's why.
And
That's
also,
kind of
like,
a non-answer.
if you just have a final girl, like, she needs to survive that big bad thing. Because if not, then it's like, where are all the threats? And so the crazier you make the villain, the weirder and the more annoying meaning like, oh my gosh, she's still coming back. Ugh. Then the more people are invested. And I guess that also kind of goes with why people keep coming back. It's like, what else is Sydney going to have to deal with? What else is Lori going to have to deal with? And each one's like, cool, we got that. We got through that together. But yeah, I would say it's like half and half. It's because both need to be equally as intense to be able to, one, like, try to kill the other, and two, try to survive that horrible thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think what you guys said, it's just really fun to see these small girls beating up these bad guys and like constantly being able to like, defeat them. There was this movie that I saw at I think it was at Fantasia Film Festival called Lucky. I don't know if any of you guys got a chance to check it out, but it's by Brea Grant, and basically the concept is kind of like, to me, it feels like what a final girl is going through like constantly, which is this woman wakes up in her home, this guy attacks her, and every day she fights him off. And then the next day he comes back, even like no matter how much she hurts him and he's bleeding and like whatever, he always comes back, and it's like kind of like this weird, like supernatural, like, why is the guy not like dying? What's happening? And they kind of went into this deeper message of like, this is what women deal with. And she originally wrote the film kind of inspired by like women who are stuck in abusive relationships. But I think like this also like relates to just like what women deal with, with catcalling or, men bothering them or what these final girls are dealing with these villains who continue to come back again and again. And it's just like this interesting commentary on how like, women are always going to kind of have to fight these battles in their lives. And as like, you just have to keep fighting kind of thing. And then it can be like frustrating that like these things keep happening. But you just have to keep fighting. So I recommend the movie. It was interesting. It kind of like made me think about final girls, and kind of maybe where, why we care about these stories. Gotta keep fighting.
True that.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other final thoughts that you want to share about final girls?
I know someone earlier briefly mentioned Riley Keough. And oh god, what was the movie? The Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
The Lodge. Oh, that was by far one of the weirdest, craziest movies that I've seen in a while, because you underestimate it a little bit. So as far as like, oh, do we have any, final girls that we can see moving forward in the next several years? I didn't mention her mostly because I'm curious to see like what else she does, like what's her next like horror movie, because what she had to endure, and not like psychologically speaking as her character, is a lot. But if you guys haven't seen The Lodge, watch it. Don't underestimate it, because it didn't do great at the box office, but sometimes like the little small movies that you didn't know were like so weird really are. Is
that the one with the two kids that she has, that she's dating the dad?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I wanted to see that. I forgot about that until just now.
Highly recommend.
It looked really good.
What about you, Steph? Any final thoughts you want to add?
Oh, I don't know. I think we pretty much covered everything. I can't think of anything.
Sounds good. So, thank you guys so much for joining me. You will be able to find all of the information and links to Pop Culture Planet and our guests below. But if you want to follow Steph and Amy, do you guys want to share where they can find you? Amy, do you want to start?
Yeah, you guys can find me on all social media at Amy Cassandra MTZ. That's an abbreviation for Martinez. My YouTube channel, like youtube.com/Amy Cassandra, and my Twitch, because I'm still very much playing horror games, and that's really fun. Twitch.tv/AmyCassandraMTZ. Remember, that one rhymes, so it's easy. It's like a song.
And I am just Steph Cozza on everything. Pretty easy to find me. And then my YouTube channel is Aggressive Comix with an X.
Oh, nice.
You have a new channel too, though.
What?
You have a new channel as well.
I do have another channel. It's not entertainment related at all, which is why I haven't really talked about it, but it's more of like a whatever the hell I want it to be kind of channel. And it's just my name, Steph Cozza. Pretty easy to find if you want.
And if you are interested in following the podcast, you can follow me pretty much everywhere at Kmaldo, or the show at Pop Culture Planet Podcast on Instagram, or Pop Cult Planet on Twitter. You can catch new episodes of the show every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. EST. And if you watch the live video version of Pop Culture Planet, youtube.com/Kmaldo, where you're watching it now, you'll be able to join in on the conversation in real time and stick around at the end for a Q&A that's not in the audio podcast. So if anyone has any additional comments or questions, we will get to those now. So feel free to throw them in. If you have any other thoughts on your favorite Halloween movies, favorite slashers, favorite Final Girls, any recommendations, any other thoughts, leave those now. Episodes are available on all of your favorite podcast listening platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy the episodes, consider subscribing so you know when a new one is posted. Rate and review this podcast and share it with your fellow pop culture lovers. Thanks for listening. It's been a blast, and I'll talk to you next week. All right, so we're going to go up real quick and answer a couple more questions that maybe we have missed. Robin, the Nerdy Mystic, says Jamie Lee Curtis is the ultimate final girl. Do you guys agree?
She is like the OG for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's awesome to see like how her career has grown, but also she can like still play that role even now. Like, so cool.
Oh, yeah, she's a boss.
Adam says The Invitation is so good. Have you guys seen The Invitation?
I haven't.
Is that a slasher or just a horror movie?
I don't think it's a slasher. It's just a crazy horror movie. It's a dinner party horror movie, which I think is its own kind of subgenre in horror.
I feel like there's a lot of horror subgenres. Cool. Let's see. Brian says, did anyone else think it was selfish in Cabin in the Woods where they seemed to think the world should end because they weren't going to survive? What did you guys think?
I don't think it was selfish. I think it was more that they just kind of gave up. Which, I mean, they were not like on each other. They just like gave up on humanity. They're like at the end, I think they say something like, it's time to give someone else a try. Like, we've done our best. Humanity sucks. Just let them kill us all. Which is not the most uplifting ending, but it was definitely a twist that I didn't expect, which is why I like the movie so much.
So do they die?
Yeah. I mean, it's implied.
Yeah.
The whole world ends.
I feel like that's like an interesting twist on like some movies where like most of the time somebody makes it out, but like when nobody makes it out, it's like, wow, this is I mean, sad.
It asks an interesting moral question because it's like, would you rather kill your friend who's made it this far or not kill them? And because of that, the whole world's going to end.
It's like, I don't want any of these moral conundrum questions. No, thank you. It makes me think of that movie. I think it's an Eli Roth movie, Aftershock. Have you guys seen that one? It was like, everybody died, and you thought that they were gonna like make it, and it's like, nope, nobody's gonna make it. Like everyone you think's the lead character, nobody. Like, okay, cool. I've like never seen a movie like that where it's just like, and the end is just sadness. Like, okay, cool,
yay.
So this we kind of talked about a little bit, I think. Let's see. But I'll bring it up anyway. Maybe we can talk a little bit more. Karen says, since the topic of final girls is what we're discussing, what do you guys think about flipping the narrative and having a female slasher and a final guy? I know it's been done, but it isn't common in the genre. I'm not a fan, but I love what Rob Zombie's movies. But I think he's saying, but it's what I love about Rob Zombie's movies, and his wife is a really good crazy killer. Do you guys think that it should be done more often or no?
I mean, I would love to see more female villains. Like, there are not enough of them, and they're so badass when they do happen. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be fun. Like, why don't we have more female slashers? I didn't see this movie, but Ma, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Isn't she sort of like a slasher villain? I haven't seen it. Sure. So
but I mean, it made it seem like it in the trailers, but I haven't seen that one either.
But I would love to see more of those.
But we got a little bit with Samara Weaving and the babysitter. Just being the villain, and I love that so much. So has she been the first person that's been the villain and the survivor? Like the final girl?
Oh.
I'm not sure, because I think in one of the Scream movies, like Emma Roberts played a character that was a survivor, but really was the killer. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, but because Samara Weaving in a full movie played the final girl. And then also in the babysitter, in the full movie, she's the villain. But Emma Roberts, like, she kind of turns, and you're like, oh, okay, I was wrong. So really, she's the villain the whole time.
That's true. Oh, so she becomes the villain later. Okay, maybe that.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. That'd be kind of cool. I'm gonna have to think about this.
He also mentions Dollface from the Strangers movies, or even taking it back to the first Friday the 13th, where the slasher was Pamela Voorhees.
That's true. I forgot about Friday the 13th. Because it's not really Jason in the first one. It's his mom.
Yeah.
I guess she's like the OG female slasher.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Mrs. Voorhees, good for you.
Jorge says, isn't Ridley in one of the best and first final girls? Just watch the Alien films, and Sigourney is amazing.
Yeah, Ripley is definitely, I think she's like tied with Laurie as my favorite final girl. They're both just so amazing. Like, God, they can both step on me.
If there's aliens, does that count as being a final girl?
I would say so. It's like, it's a sci-fi, but it's still a horror, straight up, 100%.
And she is still surviving. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like beings at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it doesn't just have to be a guy with a mask. Could be,
I don't think so.
Could be options.
Oh, yeah.
Kieran also says Toni Collette and Riley Coe are national treasures, which I think we all were agreeing. He also says a really good final guy is Josh Stewart's character in the Collector movies. It's an interesting one since he starts off as a scum and becomes the hero. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I haven't seen it. And Danielle Harris is amazing in Halloween 4. I love her growing up, and I saw the Halloween movies when I was about her age, so I could sympathize with her, and she's really good as Annie in
Rob Zombie's
Halloween.
Elliot?
Freaking Danielle Harris.
Let's see. Is any other questions? Oh, we got a nice comment from Brian that says Amy has a fun Twitch. So
channel, hopefully.
What
did I do?
Oh, you're like, wait, what? No, fun Twitch channel. So make sure to check it out. And let's see. Oh, just a comment about Octavia Spencer and Ma was amazing. So
I'm sure she was.
I kind of want to watch it now.
Yeah, I really wanted to see it. I think I heard some not so great reviews about it, so then I never saw it, but it looked great, and I love Octavia Spencer.
Yeah, I'm trying to like remind myself that just because people liked or didn't like a movie doesn't mean that like it might not become a cult classic or become like, really popular later on. Like there's movies like Hocus Pocus that like people panned and then like has like 30-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, and you're like, what? This is a classic. Like, we need to watch this. This is amazing. So I'm trying to remind myself that, because it's I feel like sometimes it could be easy to be like, oh, well, what, I don't know. What do we think will become the next classic? And it's like nothing. And it's like, well, maybe in 20 years, it'll turn out we were wrong. And like this thing that we thought was dumb is actually really a classic.
Right.
Never know. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for dressing up with me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Happy early Halloween. And thank you everyone that watched. Very much appreciate it.
Yes.
Awesome. Make sure to go follow Amy and Steph everywhere. And
Ooh, that was good. I feel like it got stuck in there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Yeah.